Just after 10 back. This is Salam Media, and I'm your host, Faraz Dakolia. This is Friday Night Live with me, ST, and we welcome our KZN listeners out on 90.4 FM and 105.6 FM, respectively, on Radio Al Ansar. Whether you are driving along the beachfront or whether you are out in your suburbs, whether you are in Westville or out in Burrito, wherever you may be, Pietermaritzburg, we welcome one and all. This is Salam Media, Friday Night Live with ST. In our Tech Talk segment a short while ago, we had a fantastic chat with Jan van Malen, and we were talking about radiation from cellular towers versus your cellular phones, and also regarding how much of radiation these devices emit, and also the myth behind these radiation and the dangers that they pose, right? If we go back to 2010 in the Krugerhaven area in Johannesburg North, there were protests about the implementation and the rollout of an iBurst tower. And as we heard from Jan, how things have evolved technology in the last 10 years. Now, AMAL is hosting 3 excellent, very relevant free webinars for the public this week. And we're going to speak to Faisal Suleiman in a moment or so. On the 9th of July, which was obviously Thursday, 7:30, there was a code of conduct in light of Chief Justice Mogoeng's statements on Palestine. We're going to talk about that with Brother Faisal Suleiman. On the 11th, which is tomorrow at 10 a.m., a mediation as opposed to litigation, other means of resolving disputes and disagreements. Also at around 3 p.m. On Saturday, the 11th of July, corporate governance for Islamic NPOs, benefits, controls, and statutory compliance. So these are the talking points that we are going to be discussing, inshallah. We will welcome now from AMAL Faisal Suleiman on the line as well, live right here on Salam Media. Faisal Suleiman, assalamu alaikum to you. Good evening. Welcome to Salam Media and Friday Night Live. Thanks for obviously taking the time. Great to have you here with us. Now, Faisal, for those who firstly haven't heard of AMAL, what exactly is AMAL? Before we run through these relevant webinars, and I want to touch on the one of yesterday, being in light of Chief Justice Mogoeng's statements on Palestine. What exactly is AMAL? For those who've just tuned in and who have never heard or seen AMAL before, just very briefly, talk to us about that.
Okay, so AMAL, which stands for the Association of Muslim Accountants and Lawyers of South Africa, was established in 1984 and is a non-profit organization with membership and services open to all, regardless of race, color, creed, or religion. AMAL seeks to empower Muslim professionals to address legal, economic, and commercial issues from the perspective of the Islamic dimensions in an informed and a meaningful way. So right. AMAL has been quite busy this week as well, presenting all of these webinars. As you mentioned, yes. One last night. So the one last night was specifically...
You mentioned the one of yesterday being the code of conduct in light of Chief Justice Mogoeng's statements on Palestine. And earlier on in the week, I was reading articles relating to that and watching so what exactly took place last night and what was the outcome of the last night's webinar? As there are 2 others as well going to be taking place tomorrow. We'll jump on that in a moment. Let's reflect on last night's discussion.
Okay, so last night was quite a robust discussion with regards to Chief Justice Mogoeng's comments and interview that he had relating to Israel. And so obviously we didn't take kindly to his comments. And so we decided to host a panel to discuss his comments and in light of the code of conduct with regards to the justice system. So basically we had Professor Ziad Mutala, Aslam Mayat was the host. We had Johnny DeLanga, Advocate Johnny DeLanga, and a few others that contributed to the discussion. And, it was basically concerning the comments made by Chief Justice Mukhing.
Now, from the outcome of yesterday's discussion and moving on to the mediation as opposed to litigation or other means of coming to some sort of resolve, which you mentioned will be at 10 a.m. tomorrow, and on 3 p.m. corporate governance for Islamic NPOs. The outcome from yesterday's webinar and the energy of that. Take us through this, and moving on to tomorrow's mediation and litigation perspective. From last night, what's the transition? What's been happening?
Okay, so these are independent webinars, right? The one last night was just the discussion in terms of the Chief Justice comments and whether he, the fact that he did not apologize for his comments and believes
Right.
that he shouldn't repeat or apologize. So I think the discussion revolved around that and what sort of plan of action there should be going forward, and one of which is a complaint, a formal complaint. I think that's already been lodged. So that's basically what took place in terms of that Chief Justice Mukhing. So tomorrow's one is quite interesting. I mean, mediation is something that's become very topical, and we have Brother Muhammad Isak, who's an admitted attorney, and he's going to talk, and it's one of his passions, mediation. So basically, he's going to talk about mediation as an alternative to litigation. Muhammad Isak is holds a diploma in childcare protection. He's also a member of the Faculty of Mediation of the Law Society of South Africa, providing training in mediation. So I think it'll be excellent for those that are interested in considering alternatives rather than litigation to register and listen to him. So it's going to be quite an interesting discussion, I think. So
And
that's
also,
basically.
there's going to be a discussion regarding corporate governance for Islamic NPOs, the benefits and the statutory compliance. So you mentioned Brother Mohammed Issa. Now talk to us regarding the benefits and controls and statutory compliance, especially for the Islamic NPOs. What's the talking point here at 3 p.m.? What happens then?
So this is also sponsored together with OCAF, UXA, AMAL, and SANZA. And there's a host of panelists. Just to name a few of them, we've got Fatima Abba, who's a chartered accountant. We've got Shokat Feki, who's the ex-Auditor General and currently head of SANZA. We have attorney Farid Jasat. We have Sheikh Iksan Talib. And we got Muhammadi. Myself, I'm going to be presenting as well as the main presenter, who is Suleiman Badat, and he's going to talk all about corporate governance. Now, public benefit organizations have been in the spotlight recently, where SARS have identified that there are a number of PBOs that are non-compliant. And there are so many around, and a lot of them, it could be just through pure ignorance or just ignoring the law. And it's important, I think, that all our organizations, and this is specifically focused to Islamic public benefit organizations, we'd like all our organizations to become compliant. And it's split into two parts. The first part is corporate governance, which Suleiman Badat is going to be talking about. And the second part is on tax and accounting issues and compliance, which is what I'll be talking about. And then the panelists that will be talking about ethics, about assurance. So it's going to be quite an interesting discussion. It's set for 3 to 4:30. I hope that's enough time for us, but I think it'll be quite interesting.
No, definitely. And by the sound of it, there is a lot that's going to be talked about. Well, there's lots of talking points, a lot that's going to be spoken about. You mentioned OCAF and UXA, SANZAF, and their involvement in this, on these and their contribution for this type of a webinar. For people who are interested and want to partake in this, how do they join on the platform? Where do they view this? What's the platform available for people here?
So there's various ways in which you can register. But what I would suggest is to send an email to info@amal.org.za, and that basically will be the first port of call. You could register, or go on to OCAF or AMAL's website, and you'll find all the details about the webinar on that. So we can register via that. Currently, I'm told there's just under 300 participants that have registered, and some of them are from all parts of different countries.
It's great to note that there's many people from different countries, who have shown interest on this talking point, and and we don't know whether they are maybe South Africans who are living abroad, Muslim South Africans, or whether they might just be normal citizens, whatever the case may be. But in hosting these webinars for the public, what are some of your takeaways from yesterday's and the outcome of yesterday's one? What was something that you'd like to share with the listeners about yesterday's one?
Well, it seemed like there was an overwhelming support against what was said by the Chief Justice Mokeng. I mean, there's lots of talk about what he said, and it's something that I think is close to the heart of all South Africans. And one of the things that was said was that Palestine will not be free. I mean, that was like Mandela's a statement from decades ago.
Yes, the famous statement he made, yeah.
So it's something that's close to all of South Africans' hearts. And I think the main issue was that the statement was made in total contradiction to the state, and to the extent that it was called treason. Advocate Johnny de Lange mentioned that, if you go against the state policy, that is what's called treason. And this is exactly the point that is being made, that, the statement by the Chief Justice tantamounts to treason. And so, that was my take from that discussion.
Well, there's a lot to talk about here. I mean, regarding the, as you mentioned, and Advocate de Lange's viewpoint regarding treason. Yourself personally, your viewpoint on the Chief Justice statements. Obviously, he's not retracting on what he has said. You mentioned, Mohammed Asad, tomorrow going to talk about mediation and litigation or other means of finding a resolve. Personally, in your opinion, what do you think could be something to resolve this?
I think the first step is to have a discussion, and many people have already tried and made communication to Chief Justice Mokeng. So, I'm not sure at this point whether any further discussion itself will have much benefit. I think we need to put probably more pressure in terms of the government to get the Chief Justice to retract his statement and issue an apology.
Do you think there's maybe a sense of political instigation or motivation behind the statement, perhaps from one sector of political, faculties, or what do you think of it? I mean, yes, opening up a discussion is one thing. Is there something sinister behind it?
I think it's difficult to say. It seems to be a religious issue on the face of it. So it's difficult to say whether there's any force behind it as such. And, again, as a public figure, your personal views, you've got to take into consideration the impact of something like that, of a statement of that nature. And so I think that the Chief Justice may have erred, and perhaps he shouldn't have made those sort of comments, especially as a South African. And knowing that South Africa is behind Palestine.
We know South Africa and Palestine have a long-standing relation. During the apartheid era in South Africa and apartheid Israel as well, and the stance that our country has, DIRCO as well. Whether or not there's going to be much more involvement and whether this, escalates or not, we aren't sure. But we hope everybody does partake, and those who have registered for the very relevant webinar, as Brother Faisal Suleiman has mentioned. In conclusion, Brother Suleiman, Faisal rather, just tell us exactly where you mentioned the AMAL website. Is it amal.coza or .com? For those who don't know the website, what's the AMAL website? You can just share it with us.
Okay, so just in terms of the registration, so we're looking at AMAL. If you can send an email to info@amal.co.za, and the website is
Right.
www.amal.co.za.
Fantastic stuff. So for those who might be interested, send an email, info@amal.co.za, and it's regarding the webinar, the mediation, and the talking point also is corporate governance. Also, as mentioned by Brother Faisal, Sanzaf, UXA, OCAF have come together, and tomorrow there will be a discussion in that regard as well. Brother Faisal Suleiman, Jazakallah khair for your time, inshallah. And inshallah, may this be a means of some form of, resolve, and maybe all, benefit from this, and hopefully, Chief Justice retracts what he has said, and may the people of Palestine be free, inshallah. We thank you once again for your time. Have a lovely evening. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. Shukran for having me.
It's only a pleasure. Assalam. It's Brother Faisal Suleiman talking. Yes, there were three excellent and relevant webinars that have been hosted. One was yesterday. Two are going to be tomorrow. One is at 10 a.m. And one is at 3 p.m. If you are interested, go on to the AMAL website for more information, or you can send an email, info@amal, AMAL, AM for Mike, AL.co.za. It is now 3 minutes after 8.